We have with us three art practitioners who, with their experience, expertise, energy, insight, perspectives, create these spaces to infuse a sparkling chemistry in the thought exchange. They weave in that steady thrum of magic that is associated with the arts, alongside all the rough, tough, unpolished, raw surfaces that art and literature also portray. They attempt to seek diverse voices, authentic research, authentic practitioners, and sort of try to steer the platform to create those breakout moments of the programming kernel. And the idea is to give that vibrant, atmospheric stage and platform. So please join me in giving a round of applause to Mita, Asad, and Guillermo, who's come from Spain. Asad, if I could turn to you. As the CEO of Avid Learning, as the curator of the Royal Opera House, which opened in 2006, which reopened in 2016, there are a diverse range of programs that you put together in arts, culture, AI, technology, and the list is always increasing. And the programming kernel sort of goes into thousands, right? How would you say has this trajectory and terrain shaped in the last few years?
Thank you for this question, Sadhana. But thank you for being here, the audience. I know it's almost lunch or post-lunch. And thank you to Shiny and the whole Bangalore Lit Fest team for inviting us. What a fantastic festival. It's my first time here. But coming back to my trajectory, I mean, I fell into the arts, to be very honest. When I moved back from the US, I didn't come here to work in the arts. It just happened. And I joke, I used to market technology, that I can market arts and culture. But I was always a consumer. I was always interested in the arts. I would go and see, especially in New York, you know, when you don't have that much money, but you can see a lot of stuff for free. You know, you can volunteer. I actually ushered Broadway shows to get in for free because when you're starting off, you don't have a lot of money. And, you know, you have a lot of concerts in the park and or GART you can go and see. So I'm always a consumer, never a practitioner. And I started very slowly, I mean, to be taken seriously when you don't have any academic backgrounds in the arts and being also representing a corporate, you'd be looked at that big bad wolf. But I made a lot of friends in the arts who guided me, a lot of mentors, many of them are out here. And I chipped away slowly, and I learned myself attending programs, attending festivals, and you know, at the opportunity where I started curating festivals, and when the Royal Opera House opened, I was asked to be the curator, which was also another learning experience. I mean, I'd never curated a venue before, but I firmly believe that first you get the job, then you figure out how to do it. That said, I think as long as you have heart, it's very easy to work within the arts. We all have the same issues. All of us working in the arts is funding and, you know, and human capital. But there are ways around it, and all you need is to love what you do. And that's how we've grown to where we have. And also because we have a very loyal stakeholder base who keeps coming back. And yeah.
So I guess that's an organic chart course that you've taken. But, you know, I must share with the audience that Asad on the side is one of the gentlemen in the arts who really wants to build an art orchestration program, right? So, Mita, if I turn to you, you know, as the co-founder of CIE, a literary consulting firm, having done festivals, Mountain Echoes in Bhutan, having been a writer, having been a journalist, what is your, in this, you know, in the trajectory, in the journey, what has been your vision board? Some creative signatures that you'd like to share?
Actually, it's, you know, literally I felt when Asad was talking, he was kind of talking about my story, because like him, even I just kind of serendipitously fell into creating Syahi over a casual lunch conversation with a UK publisher who was visiting Jaipur. And he literally called me an idiot for doing what I was doing and not giving it a name. So I said, okay, let's name it. And apart from just representing authors, I felt that the need to get different voices, strong storytelling in different mediums is needed. It was actually the need of the hour. And so one just organically kept trying to do things differently, to try and represent people from different fields of the aesthetics, to ensure that people understand that storytelling is not just, it's just not about reading books. You create a story every day. Every day of your life is a different story. You wear a story every day. Your food tells you a different story. Something that you're consuming on your tablets or on your or on Netflix also becomes a part of your storytelling. So, and we are as a civilization, a storytelling civilization in that sense, like obviously the oral storytelling part of it. So as I kept going, I kept meeting people, I kept talking to people, and like him, I also discovered various ways. So many festivals were born, not just Mountain Echoes. And Mountain Echoes, yes, happened to be one of the exciting things. Apart from that, what I also started doing is curating a series of events which will reflect my overall vision that these are the simple joys of life. When we share our ideas, when we express ourselves frankly, freely, without fear, and we let it show in our creative, stylistic experiments or whatever form of art that you're practicing. That was my basic, and it remains my basic foundation for whatever I'm doing, whether I'm representing authors or whether I'm curating a festival or I'm curating a temple music series in Jaipur in the old temples, or I'm curating an art history walk for somebody who wants to do it in Rajasthan. So whatever it is, it's about showing what it actually is and not a cosmetic, sanitized version of it. I hate anything that is sanitized too much. If there is chaos on the street and you're walking that street, you have to have that eye to see art beyond that, to see something pretty or beautiful or something that is just going to shock you, something that's going to make you think, to engage your mind. All of this is needed, and every day, and more so in the kind of world that we are living in. So that's how I basically organically tumble into things. There's not too much planning.
Cheers to that, Mita. And I suppose that's the magic of the arts, no? Triumph of the unexpected. So if I pivot to you, Guillermo, our guest from Spain, you've really been at the crossroads of global culture. You run a thriving establishment in Spain, Casa de la India. A happy visit to India, a happenstance, and you did a PhD in A.K. Ramanujam. So share with us, what are the miles traveled in this journey? What are your milestones achieved, destinations arriving? Just a show of hands, anybody in the audience has done a PhD in A.K. Ramanujam? Well, a round of applause for Guillermo. Do you have a mic? So share your journey with us. Share your journey with us. Yeah?
Thank you, Sadhana. It's a pleasure to be here. Yesterday we spoke about poetry and about Ramanujan and about how we perceive India. And as an insider, outsider, let me just share my vision, which is the vision of Casa de la India Foundation. And for you to understand what we do and what it does, I'm very glad that this is the first question, the journey, because it's very important to understand the personal journeys and how you curate also institutions. What is behind, what the idea and the objectives and the ethos of an institution is. Casa de la India is a foundation. If you're familiar with the word casa, casa means house. There are I mean, it's a term that I just came from Portugal, from Goa. So there they have Portuguese. They know what casa is. Casa means house. Casa de la India is a foundation. It's in Valladolid, which is 1 hour from Madrid. It's in a beautiful heritage building, which at some point somebody got inspired about 120 years ago and thought, let's create a space that looks like India. So the place was abandoned, and some of you have already been there. It's a heritage building. It's like a little India within the heart of Spain. And in the Valladolid, where, it's the city which saw a lot of Spanish history go by and a lot of literature. It's a cultural hub in Spain. It was capital of Spain twice. I mean, this is the outer, if you want the Akam and Puram traditions you might know in Tamil aesthetics, you have the outer and inner. The outer, the sphere, the public sphere is an institution. We are set up by the city of Valladolid, which donated the building. The university, very important. It's a knowledge-based project. I always say it's a knowledge-based project. It's very important that the university is where I started. My background is the university. And the third angle is the government of India through the ICCR, Indian Council for Cultural Relations, and the embassy. So it's a joint venture between Spain and India. And it's not just that, but it's a PPP model. So we are a foundation which works with corporate as well as public. But one thing I have to say is what lies behind that, the philosophy of the space and the building as a foundation is very much linked to my personal journey with Monica, who's my wife, who's a practitioner. She's a dancer. And I would say there are 3 or 4 bridges we try to build, and which are at the back of the structural, foundations of this foundation, of this metaphorical bridge. First, I'm a theorist. I mean, I'm a linguist, I'm a philologist. I came to India just searching for otherness and for maybe for myself, interacting in Chennai with intellectuals. I did my MA at Loyola College in Nungambakam. I traveled to Bangalore frequently for my research on A.K. Ramanujan. My mentors are people like Girish Karnad, Anantamurthy, and so on. These are my entry points. But I was in the world of ideas, discourse. At that time, modernism to postmodernism. My wife always said, but we are practitioners. She's a dancer. She went to Kalakshetra. You see the world differently. You're in your ideas. We are the practitioners. Look at us. And she always said, read the Natya Shastra. We practice that. You may think, what is rasa? But we experiment and we present rasa to you. So the first dialogue was between theory and practice. Very important. Theoreticians and theoretical work and practitioners have to work together. And every conference we curated after that was always that bridge, theory and practice. The second bridge is interdisciplinary. It has to be. Even in dance and music and visual arts, and even technology, interdisciplinary. The third bridge is, which I had to learn when we came to Spain and I was offered the opportunity to do this foundation, is you have to work with institutions and with the corporate world. The artists have to understand how they think and vice versa. That's another important space to come out of your comfort zone. And the fourth, and I end here this introduction, is we must move outside our comfort zone, and it's a bridge between cultures. What we do is to bring India to Spain, to build a bridge between the India and the English-speaking world as well as an extension, and all the bhashas, all your languages, all your diversity, and Spain and the Spanish-speaking world. We want to create that bridge. We are working to make those connects outside, if you want, the Anglo-Saxon, colonial perspectives, that the way we have engaged with the Spanish-speaking world has engaged with India has been usually through London, if I may say, or through America. No, let's create the bridge together and let's bridge those cultures. Because we have to go outside, we have to be able to know what's happening elsewhere in order to understand ourselves. So that is the kind of space. So in a nutshell, what it is, it programs, it curates festivals, but we are a laboratory. I think that's a very important concept. We are labs. You guys are also labs in a way. We are organic. We're not fixed structured. So in a way, Kasane does not cease to be a laboratory and an experiment. And we've called it, we have a lab for performing arts, where we think about these things.
So it's interesting that you alluded to the Natya Shastra, centuries old text, but actually, you know, the detailing of the Natya Shastra, let me give you an example of just music. There's a segment called Kutupa, which actually gives you the details of the orchestral formations with divisions of how many men and how many women must be there to create the balance in the instruments. And then it's not a diktat, but it's sort of a directive principle, which goes on to then say, this is the formula, and now you do magic with that. So cheers to the fact that you and your wife have looked at arts through that prism. So well, thank you. This is the first segment with all your personal journeys. I think that was a great insight, a peek into your minds. Mita, if I could take a deep dive with you here, it's something that you said about the raw edges of art. You've sort of stood for unvarnished truth. You don't want to camouflage the truth in whatever way. You do not want to sanitize it. These are the words that you've been using in your curatorial process, right? Take a deep dive. Give us, how do you sort of put together the canvas with all shades of gray and the bright colors? And what has been your interaction with the audiences? Has the distance between the audience and the stage sort of shrunk? Given your nature of work.
So I probably will give you an example from when I was curating the festival in Bhutan called the Mountain Echoes at that point in time, which was again, like the way he spoke, a cultural exchange between Bhutan and India. And the responsibility given to me was that we have to make sure that Bhutanese writers are given the same kind of platform that Indian writers are. And it was very challenging to also unearth people writing in their language there. So, and then to learn by seeking out experts there, by seeking out intellectuals there, to understand their writing traditions, their oral traditions, to understand who was practicing them genuinely. It took a lot of talking, like you're asking me to deep dive. I have so many memories that are flooding back right now. I don't know where to start. But it was literally it was like digging people out of the woodwork, because they're a very shy, reticent lot who don't like talking about the work they do. And the nuances and the complexities of the work that happens in that country is just absolutely fascinating. It's always a learning experience. So we reached out to people who would perform the oral traditions or perform poetry through oral traditions, who would do their tradition of stand-up comic in their own language. So all of this, you know, the process of identifying people who were genuinely immersed in that whole artistic journey or whatever they were doing, and to put them forward and to make sure that the audience relates to them. So there's enough exposure to the audience before as to what they can anticipate out of this particular edition of a festival, what they can anticipate from the other part of the festival, that is the Indian side and the international side. But we mixed it. It was always multidisciplinary. It was never only about the printed book. I bought in textiles, I bought in art exhibitions, I bought in calligraphy. We did music of all kinds. We performed, we did traditional Bhutanese dances with storytelling, along with taking music groups from here to kind of have a symbiotic relationship with them. We did workshops of all kinds. So we tried, when you were talking about audiences and the connection between the stage and the audience shrinking, oh my God, that was one of the standing points for that festival because we created that intimate relationship. And I'm going to say something really silly, and everybody is going to say that this woman is stupid. But for example, at Mountain Echoes, I did not create an author's lounge. Everybody had to take tea and coffee from the same counter, whether it was the 700 students, or whether it was the general audience, or whether it was the authors, even if they were Nobel Prize winners, whatever their stature was, they were all made to stand there. So that was the first thing I did, was to cut that out. And, you know, because it's a small country, so you can't differentiate like that. And I had to imbibe the culture of that country in the very essence of our programming, to show them that respect, and in turn expect that respect from them for our side of the actual cultural osmosis happened only when all of those barriers were removed, and literally even the physical connect of the audience sitting close to the stage, that also makes a difference. That also creates a chemistry when we sitting as speakers throw ourselves with our energy into the audience and try and connect with them. I think each of these little things make a lot of difference. They may sound silly when I speak, but if you really, I think Asad will identify with this, so will you, that all of these things, this micro attention to detail, that there has to be not just a mechanical delivery of an event. There has to be emotion, there has to be feeling, there has to be passion, there has to be belief that what you're doing, you're putting your best into it.
Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. So, building on to what Mita said, Asad, interdisciplinary seems to be the word which I think has emerged from all the conversations that all three of you have shared. You know, the consumer of culture is changing. And you're really at that, you know, with Avid Learning, with the Royal Opera House, you're really at that crossroad. How culture is being consumed, how culture is being created. To create these polymath powerhouses of platforms, what would you say would there be a sort of shift in your curatorial lens? Are you flipping the script or just going with the old script? How do you create that space?
I think
if I may, with technology
Yeah.
also, yeah.
You know, the way we work is, you know, first when we started, you know, you grow the audience with you. So if you do a 101, so when the opera house opened, no one knows opera in India, I mean, especially in Bombay. So we started with doing workshops. We did an opera 101, then a 2.2, then an opera appreciation. So you grow your audience with you for certain genres. One size doesn't fit all. There are different segments. You have to create programs for those segments. As you rightly said, cultural consumption has increased exponentially. I mean, there are two parts. There's one aspect of the lockdown and what everyone did online, which also, I mean, did increase. I did 240 programs in the first year of lockdown. And the amount of people I would have coming online, I mean, it would be very difficult to, and obviously people didn't have anything to do at that point, so they were online consuming culture in the best way they could. But that said, now we are past that, and I look at things that are interest to me. Personally, I love technology. Last year I was besotted by NFTs. Obviously that ship has sailed. This year I'm besotted by AI. And I don't plan my calendar. I do plan my calendar, but I don't plan the programming way ahead. I mean, I like to build on what I've actually done. And we also see what people want. I mean, I'm in every event of mine. I actually talk to them. I said, what do you think of it? Tell me if you hated it. And people actually tell us. And with social media, people are not shy to give you feedback, good or bad. And I think that's the way I curate and program. And also, you know, the city is changing. I mean, if I talk Bombay specifically, you know, with the coastal road and with the metro, and I'm waiting for all that to finish, because then access points will be much easier. And one thing that I firmly believe in is something Mita mentioned, is democratizing the arts. And when the Opera House opened, it's this beautiful, elitist-looking red and gold building. Try getting people from different socio-eco backgrounds, and they'd feel alienated. So I actually used to make a conscious effort. In fact, still, what I do is keep 30 tickets for each show for NGO kids. And I get them, I feed them, and they're always experiencing. It gives them an opportunity to experience the arts. And from different, some people have, some of these kids have actually physical limitations. So we accommodate for that also. So in that way, it's a live thing. I mean, if you tell me what I'm going to be doing tomorrow, I kind of know for the next quarter. But right now, when G20 everybody spoke about G20, we all jumped on the G20 bandwagon to try and use advocacy, because, arts for social change, arts for advocacy, to help policy so the ecosystem can benefit. So, I mean, it's a constant evolving roller coaster, I would like to say.
Yeah, I guess the G20 working not only with the government did throw up, while it threw up fundamental challenges for programming, but it gave you a very enriching experience to program things which had not been done till now. So I agree to that. All right. Guillermo, if we shift gears to you, right? As we said, culture consumption has been changing. You've spent a lot of time with the ancient texts. How do you balance the avant-garde with classics? How do you make your programming contemporary yet timeless? That's the first question. Extend that thought into, is it possible for content to be universal? Keeping a few variations, but as a curator, to create that universal content.
Okay, I'll try to address the issue with various spokes to the wheel, because it's a very important and very essential existential question. Art is art. And art is experience, art is communication, where Aristotle explained it as catharsis and purification, Bharata as rasa, as a, substantially a spiritual act or communication, which in some way or another heightens you, and gives you a flavor. Rasa is a flavor. So when we experience, and I come to the term experience is one key word, art, whether it is through the music of Ravi Shankar, whether it is through a film by Almodovar, who was just, contemporary artist, or Carlos Saura, we just had an exhibition in Bombay, or a local story in a film by Satyajit Ray, or a very, very new filmmaker from India, or from Afghanistan, or from Korea, it travels. It will travel, because that's what connects. And through music, it's easier, of course, visual arts as well. So that's the first thing. It travels in time, and it travels in space. There's no... it just has to work. It has to be, some people say it has to be quality, but what does quality mean? It has to just, provoke you. It can provoke. It has a social also role. It can educate. It can elevate. So, I have a whole chapter in my book about what the role of art can play. But in terms of bridging and connecting with cultures, it just has to work the way it would work, and it may have different connotations. Like there are other sympathetic strings. If you would listen to a flamenco singer right here, I'm sure if you don't understand the lyrics, you would get goosebumps anyway. You would get the duende that Garcia Lorca spoke about, because it's so strong and so rooted. It works. So I'm not really worried about that. So experience is one thing. It has to be experiential. And they should not take that away from us. Whether, young audiences may look at TikTok and may spend a lot of time. And by the way, we cannot allow festivals to become TikToks. So I strongly encourage you not to shorten the duration of the sessions. A half an hour is not enough for an experience. At least 45 minutes. So, let's give us time to talk. Let's not become like 5-10 minutes, because I don't know, maybe in 20 years we will have festivals. It's elevator pitch is good. And if you go to film festivals, you have the elevator pitch, you have 5 minutes, but then you go and watch a film, which is 90 minutes or 2 hours, and you say, oh, I can experience a film. So at film literature festivals, we have to be able to do the same thing. We should be able to savor. We should be able to talk to each other. So experience is important, and with young audiences, I figured, and European audience have a big problem. I think you're very lucky that you have a lot of youngsters, and I'm very surprised, especially when I go to festivals like Kerala Lit Fest or JLF, and also in Bangalore. Your audiences are a little not as young as those audiences, but you've also got a lot of young audiences in Bangalore, that you have the youth. In Spain, it's very difficult to get the youth to go and see things, but if you give them an experience, they'll come. So that's one keyword, is experience. The other keyword is independence. Independent. What do I mean by that? I don't only mean that a curator has to be independent from institutions or whatever, as you say, not sanitized. It has to be, he or she has to be independent in the thought process. An idea is an idea. We have to protect that idea. Because I deal with a lot of institutions, diplomats and corporate, and you give them an idea, and they never thought of that. Okay, but that idea is my idea. You put my name in there, And just the idea should be protected. That's why authors' rights are there. Curating is a process, and the term curate, I'm a linguist also, it comes from Latin, cure, it is related to cure. You have to care for it. It's something very subtle. So bringing together people or a program, curating as such, we know from the visual arts mainly, and then we've brought it to other programs. But it's a very careful process of putting one thing next to the other. Is what an artist does. A poet, that's what I do. I take this bottle, I put it next to a different object, and it becomes art. But curating has to be independent, and not only from that angle, and sorry if that was going to be another part of the question, but also coming to artificial intelligence is very crucial. We had I was just at Goa Film Festival, and there was a panel with Shekhar Kapur, Sudhin Mishra, and there was an idea, this whole thing that's been going on in the US also about artificial intelligence. They will start curating. Artificial intelligence will start curating, and they're doing it. There are these platforms. They aggregate the content for you, and I don't want to give names, and they're going to come in a big way, and they do all this content aggregation, and like Netflix does. And Netflix, in a way, curates for you. You go in there, and it's curated for you. AI does that, and they will do it for live experience and live content. It's already happening, and it's going to come in a big way, the way we consume. But there's a very important point and I raised the question that when that panel was taking place, what is intelligence? I don't believe artificial intelligence is intelligence. Intelligence comes from the Latin root inter, which means between, and legere, which means choose. Artificial intelligence does not choose. It doesn't choose because it's not free. It selects, it aggregates. We choose because we're free, because we're human. We choose to do this and that because there's a morality to it as well. So in that sense, it has to be independent. Curating has to be independent.
Well, that's a thought for another panel. Yes? On behalf of the Bangalore Literature Festival team, I must say, yes, we should have given more time, and we're always... So we have about 7 minutes left. Should I just open the round to... We can cut the third segment and just open the... And then I come back to you all for closing questions. Closing comments. Any questions? Would anybody like to ask?
AI is going to answer it for them.
Okay. So maybe then we can circle back and closing thoughts, closing comments on curating, future of curating. Where are we? Organic, planned?
See, I agree with what Guillermo is saying about AI, but it's here to stay. we have to start understanding it before it understands us. And that's why I've been doing a lot of programs and looking at, I did a panel the other day called Literary Algorithms, and looking at what AI is doing to literature. So you have to study it across genres of the arts to see how it's going to impact, but it is here to stay. But that said, I think we're all living in exciting times. I mean, festivals like this, collaborations, we've all collaborated, and it's a very, I really feel one of the most important and salient things that we need to do is collaborate more and share. Because we all know the arts comes with its limitations of whatever it is, but once you share, you all grow together, and the ecosystem grows together. And that's how I've actually grown Avid, is with collaborations. I joke, more logos the better. It makes the creative look prettier. Do something, but come on board. I hope to be, we've done a lot of projects together. I've done stuff with Guillermo also. But I think that's the key, is, bring in your collective resources, bring in your pool, and don't ignore technology. I know TikTok and all was said, but I mean, kids are consuming in a different way than adults, and it is what it is. It's never going to going to a museum is never going to be substituted by doing a metaverse version of a museum, but that's another option. So I think just be open to technology and how it's going to change our world of arts and culture.
Actually, yeah, I guess my basic rule probably for my kind of curating that I do would still remain: keep it organic, keep it simple, make sure it resonates with who your target audience is, and make sure what Guillermo said about involving more youth is something that we do as a conscious effort. Even when I program about 5 events in a month in Jaipur of different kinds, I make sure I'm constantly reaching out to different pockets of youth, depending on what the content that is being projected. With technology, I think it only helps. I think it's okay to absolutely move forward with it. And if AI is going to start already telling us what your third or fourth book is, even if the writer hasn't thought of it herself, which happened with me, by the way. It came up with a summary for my third book, and I said, oh. So, well, that's another this thing, but you have to be discerning. You need to know how to use it to your advantage, and make it work for you, so that what you're delivering as your content is the best ever. And the game is always about evolving. It's always about learning more, sharing 100%, collaborating. I have worked with, I think, the maximum logos ever when I'm doing my events, because that's how you get there.
You've not put mine yet.
Well, that's a question for you to answer then.
Closing comments?
Yeah, just a comment on the term about creative industries. Okay, and this is for India, for the Indian context. As an observer, I'm very glad I've seen the country thrive in a lot of fields. I remember when Sanjay Roy, whom I've known for many, many years, told me he's going to do a Lit Fest in Jaipur, and I've been following what's been happening. But one thing that strikes me, and I think I'm becoming now an advocate for a particular sector of your culture, your creative industries. You have the visual arts, yes, you have arts fairs, you have the Lit Fests, you have cinema very strongly with the corporate. I'm invited to all, because we work in all these sectors. But there's, I think, a lot to be done in the performing arts and music sector. And then my question is, maybe, is it because it's an oral tradition? Is it because it's not tangible? I mean, you buy and sell works of art, buyers and sellers. You can buy and sell films. You go to a market, you buy and sell books. But we're latecomers in Spain. We learned from the French and the Germans. We have markets now for the performing arts. You go and you buy and sell a show. You go and see it. It's there. It's like huge fairs. You buy a theater play. There are sellers, buyers, agents, venues, and it's a totally unorganized sector here. I mean, where's the muscle and the strength of your performing arts? And I say classical performing arts, all your Sangeet, oral traditions. It's just, they're helpless. So you have to create a market for them. They have to be taken seriously, because I get a lot of requests and they're struggling a lot. I think the performing arts sector should be seen as a very rich cultural and creative industry in India. And because perhaps it's not tangible, that is not there yet. So I encourage you to work in that aspect.
Well, thank you to all. Thank you to the panelists and thank you for listening. Curating really, if I extend the thoughts that Guillermo said, curating really is like the elements of music coming together. Melody, ek sacha sur, rhythm, the tal, and harmony, which we take from Western classical music, where multiple sounds can come together. So getting your melody, rhythm, harmony is what a curator does. And to end on a light note, a curator's role, we all, 4 of us are curators, it's a bit like housekeeping. It gets noticed when it is undone. And when it is done perfectly, it just does. Oh, well, that's the way it should have been. So I end with that. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.